So I was curious, were you a fan of Superman or Jonathan Kent's Superboy? Prior to getting the role.
Definitely a Superman fan. I wasn't a big comic guy. I never got into the comics too much, so I didn't really know much about Superboy. I didn't know much about the character of Jonathan Kent, so I sort of had to, look that up and do a little more research because truly didn't know. I still don't know a lot, and I really didn't know much at all. I mean, I had never read any Superman comics, and in fact, I really hadn't, like I hadn't read many comics at all. Even Batman, who's like this total Batman fan.
Yeah.
But I've much more been into the movies and shows, so like Smallville. I watched all 10 seasons several times. I was a huge fan.
That's cool.
And I think that's pretty much what you could ask for. Like, I feel like Smallville is definitely, even though it's not really, it's very different from the show. It's also, they both take place in Smallville. It's very easily relatable to the show. And also just, it's a great show, and it's about Superman.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So yeah, it's definitely, that was a nice sort of prerequisite coming to this show.
And I was a little bummed out that they didn't get to use the same farmhouse for the show for Superman and Lois. I know during their last crossovers in the season prior, they used the house, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, it's the house from Smallville." And then going into the series, it's like, oh. But it is what it is. I mean, it's still a phenomenal show. Like, the house itself is just one of those like icing on the cake kind of things. But it's still, I mean, it's with or without the house, the show is amazing.
Exactly. And I sort of, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I kind of like the fact that the show does manage to differentiate itself from almost every other superhero show. I mean, it really doesn't have much reference to any other shows. I mean, with the exception of some crossover, like John Diggle coming in from The Flash, and obviously like Tom Cavanaugh directing an episode, and who knows if he'll make a cameo on there. I'm sure there will be some other cameos and stuff like that. But I really actually kind of like that. I like that it's sort of standalone in that aspect.
It really gives it a chance to kind of stand on its own 2 feet instead of relying on another show. Like Flash came out, it kind of stood on the feet of Arrow, and then like all these other shows kind of were launched from something else. And while Superman appears in Supergirl, and that's how he's introduced to the audience, it's still, the show itself really stands on its own. Like, you could forget all about all the other shows, and that's still a phenomenal show. It doesn't need those connections.
Absolutely, I agree.